Imagine looking up at the night sky and never seeing darkness the same way again. Not a black canvas with scattered stars, not even a pale moonlit glow. Instead, imagine colossal shimmering rings wrapping the planet, glowing with silver fire as they caught the sun's light. If Earth had rings like Saturn, every human civilization would have grown under their gaze, and history itself might have taken a completely different path. At first glance, the rings would seem beautiful, stretching thousands of kilometers above the equator. They would dominate the skies. In some places, they would gleam like radiant bridges across the heavens. In others, they would cast sharp shadows that sliced the day in half. Sunrises and sunsets would be refracted into a spectrum of ghostly colors, with light scattering through ice and dust. Entire cultures would worship them, and no doubt, wars would be fought over their meaning. Children in ancient Mesopotamia would not have drawn stars on clay tablets, but instead, endless bands of glowing arcs. The Mayans and Egyptians would have carved temples aligned not just to the sun, but to the moment when the rings burned brightest. Instead of constellations guiding sailors, entire civilizations might have used the shifting ring shadows to navigate oceans. The rings would not simply decorate the sky, they would shape human destiny. But beauty hides danger. Earth's rings would not be solid, they would be oceans of rock and ice, fragments left from a shattered moon or a failed planet, and their presence would change Earth's balance in strange ways. Sunlight reaching the equator would be dimmed, plunging vast regions into cooler climates. Agriculture, rainfall, and even the flow of winds would be warped. Where the rings blocked the sun, deserts might bloom into forests, while elsewhere fertile lands could wither into dust. Imagine empires collapsing not because of war, but because the ring shadow shifted with the seasons, starving whole kingdoms of light. Imagine explorers venturing to the far poles, stunned to see clear skies for the first time, no bands above, only naked stars. For them, the absence of rings would feel alien, terrifying. As humanity advanced into the scientific age, the rings would become a mystery and an obsession. Astronomers would ask, where did they come from? Why do they remain? And most importantly, how stable are they? Because unlike Saturn's icy jewels, Earth's rings would constantly erode. Micrometeors would rain from them, streaking the skies with fire almost every night. Cities under the densest arcs would be plagued with showers of burning stone, and human technology would adapt or perish. But the greatest twist would come not from the spectacle, but from the hidden threat. What no one would realize until too late is that Earth's rings could never last forever. Every fragment of ice and rock, tugged by gravity and slowed by the thin breath of atmosphere, would slowly fall. Piece by piece, the rings would collapse onto the planet they encircled. For millennia, it would be harmless, tiny streaks of dust, bright trails of meteors. People would marvel at the beauty, never suspecting the doom. But then, one day, a chain reaction would begin. A fragment, perhaps a kilometer wide, destabilized by a gravitational nudge, would tumble from the rings toward Earth. Unlike a random asteroid from deep space, this one would already be aligned perfectly to strike. Humanity would see it glowing across the sky for hours, helpless to stop it. The first impact would shatter cities, boiling seas and cracking continents. The survivors would look upward, only to see the rest of the rings beginning to unravel. Hundreds, then thousands of fragments tearing loose, raining fire for decades. The very beauty that had defined human history would now become its destroyer. And here is the ultimate irony: if Earth had been born with rings like Saturn, perhaps our civilizations would have risen faster, inspired by their constant majesty. But in the end, those same rings would ensure our downfall, dragging us into extinction beneath a storm of fire. Or perhaps, maybe the rings would never vanish completely. Maybe enough of them would remain aloft, even after cataclysm, circling a broken Earth. The last humans, huddled in caves, would look up at the glowing arcs still painted across the heavens, a haunting reminder of beauty, power, and the thin line between wonder and annihilation. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It's easy for you, and this will help me grow the channel so I can release new videos.